It's the right word awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self. With word stylist Emily, you can call her Claudette Freeman. Reimagine your words, rewrite your power, recreate your life, renew your story, right here on the Right Word Awakened podcast. It's all part of the Right Word Awakened movement, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
Well, you heard the lady, and it is me, Claudette Freeman. How you doing? Thank you so much for always hanging out with me, and whoever happens to be on the other side of the microphone with me. I'm always excited when I get the chance to talk to people about different things that are going around in my head because, you know, I often tell you guys in my head is a wonderful place to be, but it can be very scary as well. Before we start this morning, I want to just kind of give a couple of thank yous and shout-outs. First of all, I want to shout out amazing young man, author Joseph R. Cray. His new book, Changing Faces, should be releasing this year. He has provided amazing underwriting support of the podcast, and I definitely appreciate that. Check him out at visualadjectives.com. That's visualadjectives.com. And I also want to say thank you to my amazing producer, Miss Ashley Jackson with Black Royal Family Productions. Please follow her on Instagram at BRF Productions. So we are continuing our conversation on how you're dreaming. And I know that's not grammatically correct, but that's kind of the way I feel it, how you're dreaming. And it's based on the idea that we should believe so big for something in our lives that God has to blow our minds in order to make that dream come true. We should dream so unreasonably big that it frightens us. And we've all heard the saying that if your dreams don't frighten you, then you're probably not dreaming big enough. And so far in this series, we've talked to Florence Gaspard, who's told us that we've been created to dream. Dreaming is part of our spiritual selves. And she also challenged us to think about what kind of environment we are incubating our dreams in. Is it a depressing environment? Is it an environment of denial or delay? And so she challenged us to really think about what kind of environment our dreams are incubating in and what kind of limiting beliefs we've measured our dreams against. And then we had the opportunity to speak with a visionary strategist, Geralda Larkins, who said, and this blew me away, she said that you have authority in your lane, not someone else's. So focus on your authority because that is where your strategic plans for your dream will prosper. And she and I also had a conversation which is going to lead us into our guest today because she said something that took me back to some notes I took a while ago from a Bishop T.D. Jakes sermon. What we talked about is whether or not the people around you are set to promote your dream or just ride the wagon. And some people, you know, they don't want to be there for the work. Now, they don't want to groom the horse and put the hitch on the horse and all of that stuff. But once the wagon is all hitched up and you got pretty ribbons on it, and it's time to go for the hayride, they're the first ones on the wagon. And then she also said to pay attention to the heart and soul of who you allow intimacy with your dream. And that's what took me back to what Bishop T.D. Jakes said, because he said in order for a dream to happen, there's got to be agreement. There has to be intimate relationships with those that you are going to come into agreement with your dream. And your dream has to be so big that it engulfs you. And so I am pleased to welcome, because we're going to kind of talk about not just the riding on the wagon, but those persons and those ideas, those concepts that come along to try to snatch our very dreams. And so today we're talking with Eureka Williams. Eureka Evolution Williams is the author of the Broken Pieces series, 2 books chronicling her process, learned lessons, faith building, and purpose defining through a life of brokenness. And those books are Broken Pieces, I Know Who I Am, and Embrace Your Broken Pieces. She is the playwright and producer of a touring stage production based on her life called Scarred for Purpose, The Evolution of Brokenness. Williams, a creative entrepreneur and a bit of a fashionista, also owns eGlam 360 Boutique and shares her spiritual wisdom and influential revelation through Evolution Motiversary. I knew I was going to mess that up. You'll get me right. A ministry of healing, restoration, and finding your divine inner strength and voice. And we say hello to Eureka Williams. How are you?
I'm great. Hello. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump into this conversation with you now. I know a little bit of your background, but your ministry has been born out of a place of brokenness. Yet in knowing your story, even in that place of brokenness, you have always known that there was something bigger than you. You have always had this this dream, this vision inside of you. So talk to us a little bit about that brokenness, but knowing that there was something bigger that was supposed to be birthed from you.
It actually has been twofold. Initially, when or you hear God saying, okay, I know this is where you started. I know you identified with your call via the broken vein, and then He exposed you to the flip side of the coin, meaning your brokenness is your brand.
Wow.
It's your brand. And I couldn't understand it. Like, what do you mean? Like, I come from a broken lifestyle. So how do I want to get rid of the brokenness. And I just clearly heard the Lord say, no. If you get rid of the brokenness, then you destroy your purpose. So this is your brand. This is what I created you to do and be. And now you have to make it. You have to turn it and make it work for not only you, but there are so many people need to know the uniqueness in a broken lifestyle.
Wow. So part of your purpose, or what's become your dream and your vision, then, Eureka, is the very thing that you really wanted to let go of because of the pain associated with it.
Right. I wanted to let it go before I discovered the awesomeness and the place of stability in a broken lifestyle.
So now let's clarify that, because I don't want people to misunderstand what you're saying. You're not saying you stayed in the place of negativity or defeat or surrendered to the pain, but you submitted to it enough to allow God to use you.
Right. I became totally submissive to it, and literally bowed down to it, and allowing it to use me, to bring awareness of, if you've come from this lifestyle, there is a certain lane that you must travel in order to maximize this place.
When you realized that the brokenness was number one, your God-given assignment, and like you said, the brokenness became your brand, then how do you then look at that and say, okay, so here's a dream or a defined dream, an assigned dream for me that I did not see, probably did not ask for, but since here it is, then how do you make a conscious decision to honor that?
By number one, let's say analyzing all that you've become because of this broken place. Brokenness could either wipe you out, or it could enlighten you of all you've become because of it. And becoming is where the nuggets are. Like you become more aware. You've become more, sensitive to what it is that God is saying. So your hearing, you develop spiritual hearing, and you're no longer operating in your emotions in a broken place, but you actually learn to maximize your sensitivity in the spirit realm in order to make this work for you.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of your dreams earlier in life, because as I mentioned, you're an entrepreneur, and so tell us, has there been a time in your life, let's put it that way, has there been a time in your life, more than one time in your life, when you've realized a dream, or you were right there at the brink of that dream coming to pass, and experienced the dream, the sting rather of Dream Snatchers, or someone moving in and snatching your dream? And whether that showed up as somebody literally taking a business idea, or it showed up as someone rejecting you or being jealous of you. Have you talk to us about that?
I've experienced it, and actually it made such a loud announcement. I had a preview of what it is that God was doing via my very first stage play. There was such a loud announcement, and I got to see it on stage, and there was a turn. Once I got a preview, there was a turn in events, which could have either shut the whole dream down or caused me to dig deep within myself and say, is this about, someone else, or was this about what it is that I've given you? So I had to revamp. And yes, there are events that would happen over and over again in my life that canceled some things. And I believe that, God allowed the cancellations or the attempts to happen so that it can awaken me in a certain sense to provoke me to tap into a place that I've never gone before. So it detached me from everything and everybody else. And I believe I heard God say, now what are you working with now that you're alone? And now that you have to discover that this had nothing to do with anyone else but you. This was all about what I've given you. I'll use whomever I want to use to get it done, but know that it had nothing to do with them. It was all about what you were carrying. So once I got that, I got hold to that, and you emotionally recover, and now it's time to fight for what was taken from you. So you have to go from ground zero in your belief system and become the very thing that was taken.
Let's take a quick break right here, Eureka. And when we come back, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you and ask you to be a little bit transparent about some of the other incidents where you experienced that dream snatching scenario in your life, and kind of, like you just did, kind of talk to us about what God showed you or what he encouraged you to look at in some of those different situations. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back.
We hope you're enjoying the show. The Right Word Awakened, the unconventional defining and analyzing of words, phrases, and personal life stories will return in a moment. When you were young, you'd scribble a story on notebook paper and proudly read it to an audience of stuffed animals. Just like that, you planted the seed of being a published author. Let that vision grow with Pecan Tree Publishing, a self-publishing company designed by authors for authors. Pecan Tree Publishing works with authors in an array of genres, and our inclusive packages featuring editing, printing, publicity, and marketing. Get additional information at www.pecantreebooks.com. Welcome back to The Right Word Awakened, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
Continuing our conversation with Eureka Williams. And Eureka, before we went to the break, I mentioned that I'd like you to be a little bit transparent and tell us about some of, because you mentioned that there were several times in your life where you saw that dream snatching scenario come into play. Tell us about a couple of those and what you had to step back and learn, or what you in the moment experience, so that we can then see that it's not always about, because you said something very powerful, and that was that even though it was clearly some dream snatching going on, it wasn't about the snatcher, but it was about you.
Exactly.
So talk to us about some of those incidents.
Well, initially, and the enemy is so cunning, and I say that the enemy works for God. So I realized that he allowed me to be considered at a very young age in reference to the dream snatching. I could remember my first salon. I had a sister that was into money, and she was able to, front me the money, to buy the salon. And we had payment arrangements made and different things like that. And once I went into the salon and turned it into a money-making machine and had everything rented out, it was only her money, but it was my mechanics that made it happen. Once she saw the money that was coming in, she snatched it from under me.
Wow.
She with paperwork and being naive and having a heart that believes in people, because you want someone to believe in you. So I believe that was a curse that I've always carried, trusting belief in people, because that's what you desire. So I believe that was my crippling place, but it started there, and all of a sudden locks were put on the doors, and a manager was hired to put me out of the place. And so it started real early, and I sat back as I grew and started to walk into purpose, not business, but I started to pay attention to, wait a minute, this has been going on since I was 20 years old. And I said, God, you got to show me, because this has nothing to do with now. This has been going on. This is like a 30-year span. So why at every very important turn in my life, you allow a snatcher to come along? Yeah. And as I moved into purpose, praise and worship leader, I experienced the same thing. I experienced, I know my gift, that God gave me in song, but it seems as if the more He used me in that place, the more I experienced control in ministry, or either being muzzled in ministry. And this is another instance. Now, this has nothing to do with business. It has to do with what God has called me to do as a servant. So it was another place of something being snatched. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm on a major platform, and this is happening again. Why do you continue to allow it? Now here's the third time, another major turning point in my life. My first stage play, same thing happened. Phenomenal play, Trash of My Life, Scars and Purpose. That's very same thing. Awesome turnout. It was a great announcement made, and the play was written from my first release. I got to see a preview of what it is that God was doing, and the story was copywritten right from under me.
Wow.
And here we go again.
Literally, your very vision, your very work, your very life was literally being stolen at every turn. So when you look at it, when it happens at 20, do you say, oh, okay, like you said, I was naive, maybe I should have looked at this? Do you put yourself through that whole thing where you say, okay, maybe, I should have paid attention, maybe I should have asked her, this, maybe do you take yourself through this whole questioning process, trying to figure out where you may have gone wrong first?
Initially, I didn't, because I didn't know. Sometimes when you are naive to a lot of things and you really don't know how to fight, and I believe that's where the grace of God kicks in and give you the courage and the strength to continue on. But I confronted her later on in life, and there was a denial that took place for many a year. But I finally I did it. I'm sorry I did it. You're right. I should have, whatever. But then I said to her, I said, you know what? I realized you're not the only one. I said, this very thing is happening to me again. And she said to me, listen to this. She said, when are you going to get it? You have to learn to cover yourself. She said, you didn't cover yourself. She said, you didn't cover yourself. You gave me the opportunity to, because you didn't cover yourself, you gave me access to what you put together. And when I tell you, that was like lightning went through my heart, because now it's time for me to go to work. now I'm like, yeah. So it was, and I'm like, this has nothing to do with purpose. She finally admitted it. Like, Eureka, you got to cover yourself. And that's when I, said, okay, God, it's either you have to send the right people around me. Send me the people that is after your own heart, the ones that don't have, their own agenda in reference to what it is that I have, that you've given me. You have to send me, and I need to be aware enough to know that is them. And 9 times out of 10, they have been strangers. They have been nothing familiar. They have been nothing that I've had a relationship with. They have been quick getting to know people by quick circumstances, or we just ran into each other, or they just happened to be a part of something that I was doing, and I didn't have a personal rapport with them. So those are the people that God used to assist him in putting back together again what was stolen.
So you just made 2 powerful points, Eureka, and we got to jump on these, because I'm sitting here about to just rock myself right off of this chair. One, you got to cover yourself.
Yeah.
And that right there alone, that right there that's a whole series in of itself. But you have to cover yourself. Yeah. And then you made a wonderful point, because we often think, Eureka, that it is the people who are already in place in our lives that are going to help catapult our dreams or move us from vision to vision. And that's not always the case.
It is not. It is not always the case, and 9 times out of 10, it's because the people that has been around you for the longest, they see who you were, no matter how much you grow. And the people that you meet that you've never had a relationship with, they are drawn to you because of your position now in life. And it is something that pulled them in their belief system, that attached them to what it is that you're doing. And it's a spiritual connect, more so better than emotional connect, because emotional connect could be moved at any time. So that's what I experienced. For me, it has never been anyone that I've done 20 years with or 15 years with. It has never been any of them. It has always been strangers. And I had to come out of my comfort zone, because I'm a creature of habit, although a dreamer. So right. It's not easy for me to connect with people. It's very hard because of that, broken lifestyle. It's really hard. But then in that place, I have to hear the voice of God saying, this is them. I sent them. So when my sister years ago said, you need to cover yourself, she may have been talking about paperwork then. But now for me, covering myself is being sensitive to the voice of God, knowing that he sent those people. These people they're after his own heart, and actually has a righteous womb. And when you have a righteous womb, you will cover someone like you're covering yourself. So
And so
that has
when
been
you look at the other incidents in your life, because you just said, when your sister said that she was likely talking about from the business paperwork and the strategy side, when you look at it from the way that she meant it, and you look at the other incidents in your life, did you also see where that likely was also a factor? You were uncovered.
Yeah, I know so it to be true. But then I also had to know my lane. God equipped all of us in a different way. All of us carry different gifts, and I had to learn to fight the way that I know how to fight, in order for me to be covered. Some people they are very detailed individuals, and and they pretty much, how do you call it, micromanage, a lot of things, and therefore they catch everything, like they catch all kind of things. Now, my sensor just happened to be the voice of God speaking to me saying, something is wrong. You have to go back, you have to revisit, you have to do. So I had to learn my way of fighting and my way of covering myself. So that could have been also been connected to the wrong individuals that is not, that's connected for their own reasons. And that's what blew my mind. People could start off with let's say saying, Eureka, okay, this is for you, we're doing this for you, and this is how this is going to go, when initially it has been about them from day one.
Yes.
It has been about them from day one. And when you are a person that fights for people, that believes for people, and would even invest for people, you don't believe that people have that type of agenda, but they do. They have that type of agenda. So it has been a rude.
Do.
Yeah, and it's been a rude awakening, but the best awakening in my life. It has been the best awakening.
And I think for me, Eureka, along that same line, for me, I've had to learn to cover myself by just kind of listening to what people are saying, and then watching the situations that go on around me and that person. And then I always say, I'm very cautious. I look for the red flags, and I don't ignore the red flags. Because before I would see the red flags, but I'm like you. I want to believe the best in people. I want to believe that people, when they tell me they're in it with me and for me, that's what they mean. And so with me, what would happen is I be involved in, I'd pull people into, a dream or a vision or something that I was working on, and would see the red flags, but I'm believing the best.
Right.
And before I realized that people were coveting what I invited you into, or what you've said you're doing with or for me. So then I had to learn to cover myself. And like you said, I had to find my cover myself language. So the moment the red flags start going up, okay, let me back down. Let me move in another direction. And so I think what you're saying is absolutely true. You have to find your cover mechanism, and it has to be yours.
Right.
And you do absolutely, especially if you're talking about business and paperwork and contracts and that type of thing. Have yourself a team of professionals that can cover you in that regard. But even in that, be mindful. Like Eureka's saying, hers is listening to the voice of God. And it's all the same thing. It is the Spirit speaking to you in a manner that He knows you're going to get it. For me, it's a red flag or that feeling of being unsettled and confusion. The moment I sense confusion, I kind of just get quiet for a minute. I have to kind of get quiet for a minute, because now that says to me, you need to pay attention, because I think you're going to have to cover yourself.
Absolutely.
So I get what you're saying. Now, you've made some very powerful statements, and as we wrap up part one of our time together, Eureka, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want you to talk to me a little bit about what type of characteristics and what type of faith muscles dealing with the dream snatching helps you build within. And why, like you said earlier on, you shouldn't always look at them as a bad thing. All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and wrap up part one of our conversation with Eureka Evolution Williams on the Right Word Awakened podcast.
Don't you dare move. There's so much more to engage on the Right Word Awakened, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe. We'll be right back. When you were young, you'd scribble a story on notebook paper and proudly read it to an audience of stuffed animals. Just like that, you planted the seed of being a published author. Let that vision grow with Pecan Tree Publishing, a self-publishing company designed by authors for authors. Pecan Tree Publishing works with authors in an array of genres and our inclusive packages featuring editing, printing, publicity, and marketing. Get additional information at www.pecantreebooks.com.
Hey, girlfriend. So lately, you've been talking yourself out of going back to school or starting that new business. But girlfriend, it's time to move past the fear and take action. Are you looking for a little tool that'll give you that push? Go grab What a Woman's Gotta Do by Kay Richardson. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it at clientswhosayyes.com/products. How would your life change if you take action?
Now back to the show to employ reimagined words and stories in the strategic plotting of your life journey. The Right Word Awakened.
So we are towards the end of part one of our conversation with Eureka Evolution Williams, and I want to make sure, and she'll tell you a little bit about this in just a few moments, but want to make sure you remember to check out her books. She's the author of the Broken Pieces series, and that's 2 books. Broken Pieces, I Know Who I Am, and the second book is Embrace Your Broken Pieces. So, Eureka, before we went to the break, I said I wanted you to talk to us about what characteristics and what kind of muscles, what kind of spiritual muscles, or what kind of emotional muscles build within when your life forces you, or when God puts you in a place that you have to deal with dream snatchers and dream snatching.
Firstly, emotions are not allowed. They're not allowed. And the reason why I said that, because we're human beings, and we're scarred from type of situations like that. That would and emotionally, if we stay connected, we wouldn't be able to move, because sometimes things like that, when you've operated in something that you believe and you're scarred, it could paralyze you, and you wouldn't be able to move. Meaning you will be engulfed in the emotions behind it, and it will take you so long to recover, and time moves whether you move or not. So you have to cancel the emotions and become the dream.
Wow.
Yeah.
Say that again, Eureka, because that just like blew my head clean off my neck.
Yeah. You have to cancel the emotions and become the dream, which calls you to tap into a muscle that you've never used before.
And listen, that's good. Go ahead. Keep talking. I'm right. Keep talking.
Well, initially, when things happened with my stage play, and I had a preview, and everything happened, it paralyzed me, and I had to recover emotionally. But I knew the voice of God in me trying to recover, and then I had a decision to make. It's like, okay, this is a pivotal point, like in your walk. You have to decide: is this going to cancel who you are, or is this going to maximize what you're getting ready to become? And I had a decision to make. And of course, with the tears and with the struggles, I had to make a decision. No, God, I am going to fight to become what it is that is required for this next position in life, because that's exactly what it is, and we have to see it. It's that you've now made an announcement to the gates of hell and the snatchers that, number one, this was never about you. It was always about what God was calling me to do and be. And once you grasp that, and you're able to move micro steps, because remember, you're still wounded, but so you still have to take the micro steps until you actually peel off. It's like you're coming through a tunnel, and who you've become because of everything being stolen is on the other side of the tunnel. So now you have to find out, how can you go through this tunnel and not come out scarred, and your belief system scarred, and your emotional stability stable enough, because you're human first, to say, okay, I could still move, because now there is an announcement saying that old person is gone. Now who are you right now?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's the one that continue the dream, and the muscle has actually grown and stretched by coming through that tunnel. Yeah. And now you must know your position in the land. You must know who you've become, and you must know how to fight, because the old war is dead unless you drop your guard and your emotions cause you to relapse into what was.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And we have to remember, you said that your muscles grow and strengthen, and we have to remember that that's a painful process.
It is.
You never develop muscle without as you changing your diet. So you have to change your spiritual and your emotional diet. You have to change some things. You have to be willing to stretch. In some areas where you've never stretched before. You have to be able to look some things and look some people right in the face and say, it was all for the good.
Yeah.
It was all for the good. And let that go. And it's not an easy thing, Eureka. It's not an easy thing.
It's not easy at all. And once you come through that tunnel, the other relationships that were familiar with you, they die as well. So now you go into a place of incubation. Which is causing you to go into a place of healing, so you could revamp, so your belief system could balance. Because when you come in from one belief system to the next, you're not stable as of yet in your belief. So you have to go into an incubation stage, which is being alone. It's being alone and in your unfamiliar place. And you have to know that you are there for a reason, and find it okay to be there and stay there. Until you stabilize, because God is doing something. And it's just like a baby that came out before time or came out full term, but now they have a few things that needs to be stabilized. So that's where we come from. When we come from that place, and God is making a brand new announcement of who we are now and our position in the land, you have to go through the incubation. It causes you to be alone. The relationships are dying, but you have to be aware of the new team that God is putting together on your behalf.
And there you have it. Let's stop right here for this episode, Eureka, and we'll pick up there and on a couple of things you said on part 2. But before we wrap up this edition with you, I want you to tell people where and how they can connect with you online and how they can purchase the books.
The books could be purchased on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, and also you could connect with me at EurekaEvolution.com, and also Facebook, Eureka Evolution, and on Instagram, Eureka Evolution. So you can order the books from my site, or you can go straight to Amazon.com, and everything will be right there for your purchase.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me for part 1. Eureka, hang right there Again, you can connect with her, Eureka Evolution, on Facebook. The books are available Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. As you know, we always like to end our shows with an aim, the affirmation, the intention, and your move. The affirmation this time around is, I press towards the mark and assignment of my dream, casting down all things that come against it. The intention is, I am making me whole and more purposeful as I repurpose the broken pieces in my life and use my new design to help others. And your move is, identify your dream snatchers and then identify an immediate positive action to release their assignment against your dream. And if you want to get a copy of these, feel free to email us at rightwordawaken@eclaudetteliterary.com, and we'll make sure that you have them. Again, special thanks to my amazing producer, Miss Ashley Jackson with Black Royal Family Productions. We'll see you next time on The Right Word Awakened.
You've been listening to The Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self with word stylist Emily. You can call her E. Claudette Freeman. Want more information? Visit www.eclaudetteliterary.com. For sponsor, guest, and other show information, email rightwordawakened@eclaudetteliterary.com. Until next time, tell your words to wake up.